Yes?
Hi, Congresswoman. My name is Guillermo Mayer. I'm visiting from the San Francisco Bay Area. And I was wondering if you have any thoughts on how to increase the overall funding for public transportation. That's a huge debate in the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee and how we're going to generate the revenues. We'd like to see more funding go to public transportation, but that's a big question mark, and just wanted to hear your thoughts on that debate.
Well, Transportation Committee, as you know, I think has, what, 70 members? I can't remember, it's an outrageous number. In California, I think we have 4, and that's stretching it. Bar Richardson, myself, Filner, and I think Gary Miller. Oh, Ellen Toshima, she's going to be leaving. And it sometimes depends on who's at the helm of the committees themselves. And that's where you need to, I made my colleague, made friends with my colleagues and taken them to LA to take a look at the issues that I face in transportation. And they've been very generous with their time. They've held hearings at my behest. Years ago when I came in, this is my 11th year in Congress, I had to fight to just get people, my colleagues, to understand the value of California's transportation problems insofar as goods movement out of the ports and into the rest of the nation, okay, because it all goes through my district. Now there's an on-time delivery. On-time delivery, you guys know that? It means the rest of the manufacturers want goods coming into the ports, want them on time so they can sell their product. Well, they want on-time delivery. I want help in my district, whether it's the grade separations or safety issues or, you understand. So you got to learn where it's at, who does what, and be able then to talk to the issue directly with them. Whether or not we're able to expand the amount of money, transit money going to California, depends on who makes the case and for what area of the state. And to ensure that if it goes into California's budget, that it trickles down. It's trickle-down economy to me is for the birds. I'd rather have it go direct funding to the councils of government because they know what to do. But unfortunately, they don't have the ability to do that in the 501c3s. So what the answer is bird dogging it, ensuring that if there is going to be a stipulation of adding a certain amount of money for bus transit, for the ridership, for new buses, that it goes directly to that and not in an open fund so that anybody can go in and say, well, we've got a budget situation, I'm going to use the admin of 15 to 20% to help balance our budget. So you've got to look out for all those little things and make sure that the money in the end goes to the intended purpose. So if we add money, where's the money going to go to? Who's going to benefit? Because if it goes to the state, to the county, and then to the locals, everybody takes their administration fee. By the time you get it down, you may be lucky to have 50%. Does you follow? Lessons learned. Anybody else? Anybody else? Did that answer a little bit question? About the money?
Just as a quick follow-up, and maybe this is something we're also struggling with as members of this campaign to raise awareness about the need to invest more in transit is really coming up with the solutions on how to make the transit system viable and sustainable in the long term, and how we're going to generate those revenues, whether it's indexing the gas tax or raising the gas tax, or the climate change legislation going to provide funding for transportation, or cargo fees, or I think we just have to get very creative. And any thoughts you want to share with us, and we're happy to follow up with your office.
Well, considering California, you talk about the cargo fees. I guess the port's already talking about being able to contribute to that, but to me, they are not checking their loads at the port consistently for weight. So when they hit the road, they're overweight, they're damaging the road. So it means more money going into the road repair, even more necessary than they're putting into their tax. So every truck has a high tax base. How do we do that? And is the agency aware that this is an issue that needs to be addressed, because then it kind of runs into the other issues? Insofar as, I'm sorry, my mind is traveling. What was the other issue that you were talking about other than?
Any other revenue generation ideas for?
Well, There is talk about an increase in the gas tax. There's great opposition from my colleagues on the other side because that's another tax increase. But unless we do something, we're not going to be able to afford the expansion that we need, that is necessary. And about a year ago, Chairman Overstar issued a report on the condition of bridges and overpasses in our areas. And let me tell you, it was a good report. I sent that on to the LA County, I sent it down to the councils of government for them to be aware, because buses go over bridges. Now, if it's an unsafe bridge, or may crumble because there's water that went on and started degrading the base of it, then we need to know. And we need to be ensuring that those are safe for transit. So all of those things go into the transportation. So while we hit one, we also keep an eye out for others that might be inherently affected. But I have no answer unless the budget starts, unless the economy starts improving so that there's more money going into the fund. But with the advent of more hybrid vehicles, fuel-efficient vehicles, there's going to be less gasoline sold. That means less revenue in the tax base. So somewhere, it's got to come from somewhere. And that is one of the biggest budgets is transportation. So as is making people accountable for those expenditures, utilizing the best money-saving techniques or technology. I don't think we go into that because there is not enough budget in those agencies to do the follow-up in those particular areas. Okay, yes, ma'am.
Hi, Congresswoman. Thank you for taking the time to speak to us today. My name is Petra Todorovich, and I work at Regional Plan Association in New York, which is a nonprofit planning organization for the New York region. And we're grappling with many of these issues in the New York metro area. We just went through a bruising campaign with the state legislature. Many of our partners are here in the room to secure a $2.2 billion revenue package for New York's MTA. And that funding comes from a regional payroll tax and some auto registration fees and other driver charges. So it's a diverse set of funding sources to fund the mass transit system. My question is, in thinking about federal funding for operating assistance, I wonder if you've considered structuring it in such a way so that the federal government would reward regions that generate funding locally and from the state. Because in our region, if the feds had just come in and rescued us, we wouldn't have been able to motivate the state legislature to secure that very important funding that we just secured. So I wonder if there, and I know a lot of other regions are struggling to draw on road, other types of charges so that you spread the burden for the mass transit system around to everyone who benefits, drivers, mass transit users, businesses. So,
well, you're talking to the wrong person because I don't I'm not ahead of any of the subcommittees. Mm-hmm. But I believe there has been some talk about how do we provide incentives. What incentives will work? What will get people off the cars and into transportation? And by the way, how do we pay for the new infrastructure or the repairing of the infrastructure that has been laying dormant for 50 years? And all of a sudden, we're finding out that we should have done something 20 years back. And so all of it is part and parcel of taking a look at the whole system throughout the United States and what are priorities? And how are those priorities coming to us? And what are we going to do about them? Because the minute we say there's a priority, somebody else is going to say, but I have. And there has been talk about incentives, but I don't know. We'd love to have you maybe submit something and be able to have the chair of the subcommittee say, okay, we've looked at it or we have not looked, and then reply to you, because that same thing may be applicable to some other region, is how do we provide the incentives to spur that kind of a movement and let people know that they're also responsible, and especially the businesses.
right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Well, thank you so very much. It's been a pleasure.